So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
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 Welcome to the September 16th Land Use Board meeting. It is now, unfortunately, 7:40. I apologize for my tardiness. I'm still new to this kind of technology, as I'm sure most of us are. I will call the meeting to order. And I will ask for a roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Mr. Killian,
Finally here.
Ms. Boland,
Here.
Mr. Bartoloni, I think is absent, Mr. Merman,
Here.
Mr. Grasso,
Here.
Mr. Cray,
Here.
Mr. Casplin,
Here.
Councilman Kanigo,
Here.
Mr. Gibbons. Oh, I think he's on mute, but I see him here. And Mr. Esposito.
Here.
Okay.
Was Mr. Gibbons here? Is Ryan here?
Yeah, I was muted. I'm here.
Okay, hi, Ryan. How are you?
Good, Jim. How are you?
All right, and our planner, Tom, is he here? Tom Behrens?
I'm here. Good evening.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
All right, Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Okay. I'll read the statement, which is prior notice of this meeting is distributed by both the Record and the Ridgewood News. Also posted on the website and could be possibly posted on Borough Hall but Borough Hall is basically closed. So, but you do get it is posted on the Borough website. I will dispense with the flag salute. And again, we're called to order. And I believe that the first order of business is the approval of minutes. I thought I saw August 19th. I don't think I saw September 2nd. So let's go to the 9th.
We actually only have September 2nd, not the 19th.
September 2nd, okay.
Yeah.
So you should have all received those in email. If anybody have any questions or comments?
No.
I'll entertain. Ryan?
So moved.
I'll entertain a motion to a second on the minutes.
Second. Dick Merman.
I'm going to remind everybody when you speak, just say who you are first so we know, because I don't have everybody up on the screen at once. So it was Dick Merman on a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any no's? Any abstentions?
I
Very
believe
good.
No.
I was out, so I'm abstaining.
Okay. Okay, next up is we have two memorializations. We'll go to the first one, which is Pet Down LLC, 259 Johnson Avenue, block 1417, lot 3. If you remember, he came in, he applied for outdoor dining, he applied for additional parking. He was supposed to deliver us a copy of the lease for next door, which I believe we have in our possession this evening. And he was also going to provide us with an executed contract with a valet company. So I'll go to Marina on that. Marina?
So yes, we did receive the lease agreement for the neighboring parking lot. And we also received the tent description and drawing that I forwarded to the engineer for review. Last week, I haven't received any comments on that, so that should be fine. I also received all the valet parking agreements. There's only two minor revisions that I have to include in the resolution. One is to paragraph 17 of the general resolution. In the resolution, I put lots 2 and 2.01, but actually the parking lease agreement is for lots 1 and 2.01. And then the other minor change is in the conditions. Since the applicant received the parking for the neighboring lots, the Hackensack approval is no longer needed, so I'm going to remove number 7 out of the conditions.
Okay. Tom, do you have anything to add that you want to add, Mr. Behrens?
Nothing at this point, Mr. Chairman.
I'll open it up to the board. The board have any questions or comments?
Dick Merman here. How are you gonna handle Mr. Costa's review?
Well, it was incorporated in part of the,
Correct. I
and-
understand that, but what happens if he has comments? Are we gonna put in our resolution acceptance based upon favorable?
we did,
It is in there, Mr. Merman. It's condition number 14, that it's subject to the approval of
Okay.
Mr. Costa.
All right, very good. Gonna keep you honest.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the memorialization. for Pet Time.
Ryan Gibbons,
Thing.
I'll propose that we move forward with the memorialization
As amended.
Do I have a second?
as amended.
Second, Dick Merman.
Can I have a roll call, please?
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Mr. Bartoloni is absent. Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin.
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo was absent at the day of the hearing, so we'll have to do abstain. Mr. Gibbons
Yes.
and Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes. Okay, the next one up was a resolution for the 7-Eleven by Jaja Mandabar, Franchi, 584 Kennecott Road, block 619, lot 3. If you remember, this was just simply a transfer of ownership of the business, not of the building. We had checked with the police chief, and he had no comments, no problems, and we gave them their approval, subject to the previous approval. So are there any comments on this? Hearing no comments, I'd like to entertain a motion for this approval.
So moved. Kenigo.
I'll second.
So that was Councilor Kanigo. All right, so Mr. Esposito had given the second, but being that we have only one regular member absent, I'm going to ask for somebody else, because Mr. Esposito is the second alternate, and tonight, although he can vote, I don't think he's allowed to. Ms. Henley?
I wasn't
Dick
at that
Merman?
meeting, Mr. Chair.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter here tonight.
Okay.
Dick Merman will second it for you.
Okay.
I don't want anything to come back, that's all. Can we have a roll call, please, Ms.?
Yes. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland was absent for that meeting. Mr. Bartoloni is absent tonight. Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo.
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons was absent that evening, and Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and just to go over real quick, the alternate status and so forth and what that means. We as a board have always allowed our alternates to vote on everything, even if we have a full board present. So the only time that, and we do that because if one of our board members is disqualified from voting for whatever reason down the road, we can just move that alternate into that space. So when we have a absent member like we do tonight with Mr. Bartoloni, the first alternate gets to step in and becomes a full member for that evening. So it's not to disparage our alternates. They're great. They're always here. We love them. It's just, this is the way that the board has been set up. And I wanted to explain that. So, and we're happy, we're happy we have a full board now. So with that said, we have one more resolution. This was from Matthew Terhune, 206 Berkeley Road, lot 902, I'm sorry, block 902, lot 18. He had come in for a shed. I think we made some minor adjustments and requests that were part of the memorialization. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this memorialization.
So moved. Caslin.
Go ahead, anybody.
Second, Dick Merman.
Do I have a motion to the memorialization?
Oh, we just got a
Do
motion.
I have a second?
and-
Yeah, Dick Merman, second.
And I'll do the roll.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
You know, I don't know if I have a bad connection here. I see that some of the people are frozen here.
Okay, we got
Okay,
a motion
roll, please.
from, okay. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Kellyan,
I am, for some reason, I'm freezing up here.
okay.
Your vote,
Mr., your vote?
Jim, your vote.
He must not be able to hear us.
We'll come back to that.
I'm a yes.
Okay, there we go. Ms. Boland was absent at that meeting. Mr. Bartoloni is absent tonight. Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray. Uh-oh, I think we're muted.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo.
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons was absent at that meeting, and Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay. And I think we may have lost Jim
We
briefly.
did. I just got off the phone with Mr. Eric Henley, got booted. I reminded him that he had two options. He could do the video with the audio on his phone, or he could just do the audio on the phone until presentations, of course.
He's back. He's back, Tom.
Okay, great.
I think I'm back, folks. Am I back?
You are.
I can see
Yeah, I can hear you.
everybody.
hooray.
I apologize. This Zoom meeting from heck. All right, I'm guessing that we passed that resolution without me, and that's fine. I was a yes vote.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to discussions. We have the master plan consistency review for Newbridge Landing and the redevelopment. And I believe this is going to be carried, but I know Tom wanted to speak. Mr. Behrens?
Jim, as you mentioned, we had originally scheduled this for discussion tonight, but upon further review of the redevelopment plans, there's an adjustment that has to be made with respect to the affordable housing requirement. And so we expect to be back before the board for the first October meeting for the master plan consistency review.
Okay. And so that's for both the Nikinda-Kamak redevelopment as well, correct?
That's for both, correct?
So just a little history on this. We formed a committee about a year and a half ago to work on the master plan. I know that the committee has forwarded to Tom some of their comments. We're just about ready to put everything together. It's a little bit tardy because of the, we were kind of forced into waiting to find out what was going to happen with the fair housing and with the judge. Our attorneys have been meeting with the fair housing and I believe the mayor and some of the council people as well. Most of it is resolved at this point. So hopefully by the October meeting, we'll be able to put this thing to bed.
Correct. And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, you're talking about the master plan reexamination report.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay, good. All right, so we're up to completeness review. And our first completeness review is Darko and Tamara Shabazik, I believe, 320 Wales Avenue, block 115, lot 23. They're proposing a patio of 333.36 square feet, and that will increase their impervious coverage to 38.2%. And that is why they're here tonight. Folks, are you with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Well, good evening. How are you, sir?
Good, good.
Sorry about the snafu a little bit. Sometimes the electronics get a little wackier. So I'm going to ask you real quick. Well, first, our attorney is going to swear you in.
Yes.
Ms. Finley,
Are we just going to do the completeness review first? And then?
we're going to do the complete. Yeah.
Okay.
Is-
So prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proofs that were submitted, all of the mailings and the publication. They were correct, and the board has jurisdiction to proceed tonight.
Mr. Barron's?
So the application is for a patio. There's one variance required. It's for an increase of 3.2% above the maximum 35% coverage. The board should have received a marked up survey showing the approximate dimensions of the patio. So I believe the board has enough information to determine the application is complete.
Okay. Board members, any questions? I'd like to take a motion on approving this application and moving it to regular business.
So moved, Kingo.
Do I have a second?
Second, Dick
Roll
Merman.
call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes. Yes. Now coming through?
We heard you, Ms. Boland.
Okay.
Can't hear.
It looks like we've lost.
Lost sound.
Marina, we can't hear you.
hello, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kenigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay,
All right, we'll call you back in a few minutes there, sir. The next order for completeness is Club Feathers, PDJ Restaurant LLC, 77 Kinderkamack Road, block 1410, lot 4.03. They are looking for a food license. And as you all know, the borough requires any change of ownership, whether it's includes the property or not, on a business that serves food in the borough of River Edge to come before the board with a site plan for site plan approval. So this, in this case, the current owner is merely purchased the business from the prior owner. So he's required to come in here for approval. And sir, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Good evening. How
Good
are you
evening.
tonight?
Good.
Okay, Marina?
okay, so before the meeting, I reviewed the proof submitted by the applicant, all of the mailings and the publication, and they are satisfactory, and the board has jurisdiction to proceed.
Mr. Barron's?
So my understanding is that the application is simply to facilitate the proposed or transfer of ownership that has already occurred. So with respect to the site plan that the board has received, I believe it was submitted more for informational purposes in that it depicts a certain improvements that were more conceptual and that have not necessarily been approved by the board. So I think if the board deems the application complete, the applicant can describe what the current property conditions are, and the board can perhaps, as a condition of approval, require a survey or revised site plan showing what's actually there now. And the borough files may actually have an up-to-date survey. I just was not able to find one in preparation for this meeting.
Okay.
So in that case, I think the board can determine the application is complete.
Members from the board, any questions?
Dick Berman here. So
Yes,
are you saying that the site plan submitted requires revision?
Well, what I'm saying is that the site plan that was submitted shows improvements that had been proposed previously but are not being proposed tonight. But I think the majority of it is accurate, and for the purpose of the transfer of ownership, I think
Okay.
it's.
I understand that. Okay. Yeah. So the motion is only for a food handler's license and no site improvements, parking or sign.
Well, right now, the motion is strictly to move completeness, that's all.
Yeah, no, I understand that. You're recommending that the final motion have those items. Okay. Got it.
Are you making the motion?
Well, if you want,
Mr. Chairman, I have just a quick question.
Sure.
Perhaps I'm mistaken, but I seem to recall that there was an issue of taxes, unpaid taxes with this property.
Yeah,
Is that
that's, we're
correct?
going to address that during the meeting, during the hearing. Let's just
That's
get
that's not a reason for the board to not hear the application.
Right. We'll discuss that during the hearing portion.
That's fine. I was just questioning whether that was still the case.
Yeah. Can I have a motion to move this to approve this for,
So moved. Gibbons?
so I have a second?
Gibbons? Or I was the first, I don't know what.
Second.
Given first, okay. Mayor, the council second. Roll call.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kinigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to move to the new business portion of this meeting. And I'm going to call Mr. Sebasik up. This is 320 Wales Avenue, Block 153. And again, this is for a proposed patio in his yard. Sir, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, so before we begin, I just need you to raise your right hand. And will you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and could
I
you
do.
state your full name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Darko Subasic. DARKOSUBASIC.
And you're the property owner?
That's correct.
Okay.
Sir, do you have anybody else that's planning on testifying this evening?
Yes.
Do you have anybody else that's going to be testifying on your behalf this evening? Architect, attorney, anything?
No.
Just yourself. Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Sebasik, why don't you let us know what you're planning on accomplishing tonight?
We would like to build a patio. Width is like a width of the house. And we have 2 kids, me and my wife. We like the town. Kids are going to school here. And we did some improvement inside the house. And now we are ready to build something outside. We don't have nothing, really nothing outside. That's the reason why we like to spend some like a family time outside. That's like a reason, like everybody else.
Okay, especially in these times, right? Mr. Barron's.
So based on the dimensions of the plan, the proposed patio is 27 feet approximately by 12 feet, which equals about 333 square feet. And that brings the total impervious coverage to 38.2%, where the maximum permitted is 35%. In this particular case, if you look at the survey, there is still, a sizable backyard that's left over. The lot itself is somewhat undersized. It's 6,050 square feet, where the R1 zone requires a minimum of 7,500 square feet. I know the board typically asks applicants in these types of cases where the coverage is over, whether or not there's any drainage issues on site that need to be addressed or not. And maybe that's a question I'll ask the applicant. Are you aware of any water problems on your property, either coming from neighbors or from your property to other properties,
No, really.
that this patio would increase those issues?
I don't think so on that side, no. Because everything is sloping away from the house.
I mean, I don't think to do a patio here, to comply, they wouldn't have much wiggle room. So the property already is almost sort of maxed out in terms of its development potential, in terms of what's permitted. I don't think it's necessarily out of character with, existing development on the block, but, the question always remains, why can't the applicant comply? But I think it's that they wouldn't have a functional patio if they did meet the 35% threshold. So I don't know if the board has any questions at this point.
All right, so, sir, do you have anything else you wish to add?
No, really, thank you.
Very good. All right, I'm going to go to our members. I'm going to call each member like I always do, and you can have a comment or say no comment. We'll start with Mr. Esposito,
No comment.
Mr. Gibbons,
No, nothing right now. Thanks.
Mr. Caslin,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Mr. Cray.
Yeah, one question. The survey shows that there's like a small existing concrete pad where the patio's going. What, is that for like an air conditioner or something, or is that just from a step onto a door into the house, or what would that be?
That small patio is only for the step from the house.
That's the step from that, okay. So actually what you're adding is a little bit less than the 12 by 30 because there's already an existing pad there. Okay. That's all.
That it, Mr. Cray?
Yep.
Mr. Grasso,
No comment.
Mr. Merman.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Okay.
It's noted, the board should note, and it has been noted by the planner, that the lot width is only 50 feet. So for this zone, it's already basically undersized. And the amount of increase of the maximum improved lot coverage is very slight and within my personal threshold. And I don't see any reason to deny the applicant what he requests.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Boland,
No comment.
Mayor Papaleo,
I agree with Mr. Merman.
and Councilman Caningo.
Everyone needs somewhere to barbecue. I agree.
Couldn't agree
Smart
more.
man.
And that's my comment. So I'd like to make entertain a motion open to the public.
So moved. Gibbons?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? I don't see anybody in the public.
And it looks like there are no attendees as well.
Okay. So take a motion to close to the public.
So moved. Gibbons?
Second.
Here you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, at this point, anybody else have any further comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this application.
So moved. Here you go.
Do I have a second?
Second, Merman.
Gibbons?
Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Keenigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good.
everything passed.
Sir, good luck. We all expect an invitation to your first cookout.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, next up is Club Feathers, PDJ Restaurant LLC, 77 Kindermack Road, block 1410, lot 403. And that's Mr. Paul Benetti.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Good.
Good to see you.
Mr. Benetti, if you just please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. And could you please state your name and spell your last name and give your address for the record, please?
Sure. It's Paul Benetti, and it's Binetti, and my home address is 19 Acorn Road, Secaucus, New Jersey, 07094.
Okay, and Mr. Benetti is represented by Mr. Manassian, who's also here today.
That is correct.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. For the record, it's Donald Manassian of the law firm of Atkins, DeFury, Manassian, D'Amato, and Bean, 887 Kindermack Road in River Edge, New Jersey.
So before we get started, I just want to remind the board members, this is strictly for a food handler's license. If you look on the agenda, he has
Mr. Killian,
he's
may I
on
talk for
there,
a moment?
parking, sign, landscape. I don't believe that any of that is going to be applicable this evening. We're just hearing a basic food handler's license application. And just for the record, I did speak with, or emailed with, I asked our clerk to email the chief of police to find out if there were any issues there. My understanding is because the council passed the license recently, that there's been no reasons to hold this up for any issues like that. So moving forward, Mr. Manassian, please go ahead.
Mr. Killian, if I could just interrupt for a moment.
Yeah, there.
I don't know if Mr. Subasic understands that he may stay, but he does not need to stay, and I just wouldn't want to make him stay. Mr. Subasic, if you're approved, if you wish to stay, you're welcome to stay, but I don't want you to think that you're obligated to stay at this point.
I didn't even see him here.
Yeah, I just, this might be quick, this may be long. I just didn't want, so you're approved, sir. If you wish to leave, you may. If you're interested in staying and listening, of course, this is a public meeting, you're more than welcome to, but we didn't want you to think you had to stay, all right?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm gonna leave. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Mr.
Thanks, Mayor.
Take care. Manassian. Sorry to interrupt you.
Not a problem. My client purchased Club Feathers from the prior owner in September of 2019, just over a year ago. At the time of the purchase, he wasn't aware of the fact that because there was a change in ownership, he needed any type of municipal approvals. The gentleman, his manager, Ed Callen, has been the manager of the property for some 30 years, and he's always had a food handler's license. He continues to have a food handler's license. He went for the class in June of this year, so it's just a matter of filing the paperwork now for the actual licensing by the municipality. Paul will testify that the property was in full compliance when he purchased it, and he has made no changes to the property during his period of ownership and does not anticipate any changes to the property at this time. It's not part of this application, with the exception of some outdoor dining that was brought about as a result of COVID, which he received the necessary approvals for. Nothing else as far as the site is concerned has changed since August of 2019, the month before he purchased until now. So with no further ado, I call Mr. Benetti to testify to that effect.
I am here.
Paul, you are the sole member and president of PBJ Restaurant LLC, the leaseor of the premises.
That is correct.
You purchased the business in September of 2019.
Yes,
At the time, as far as you understood, all municipal approvals were in place, correct?
that is correct.
You've made no changes to the business since you purchased it, have you?
No, it's exactly the same as it was.
No changes in parking?
Nope.
No changes in occupancy?
No.
You haven't added any permanent outdoor seating?
No, sir.
Have you changed the hours of operation or the number of employees, except as may have been dictated by the COVID?
Only because of COVID are we open a few hours more, and we have a fraction of our staff.
Okay. You haven't changed signage, nor do you anticipate changing signage?
No, sir.
The location of the garbage and the recycling containers is the same?
Yes, sir.
You're not anticipating any changes to landscaping?
No, sir.
And you've indicated that Ed Callen, your manager, has gone for and completed the necessary licensing course.
Yes, sir.
At the time that the application was filed, you had not paid your third quarter taxes due to the Borough of River Edge. And you understand that any approvals by this board this evening are going to be conditioned upon you making payment of those third quarter taxes within some period of time.
Yes, sir.
And would you be in a position to represent to the board that now that outdoor dining has been permitted and you're actually able to start making a couple of dollars from your restaurant, that you'll make that third quarter tax payment by the end of September?
Yes, that's fine.
The board approves that. If the board approves you paying them by the end of September, you'll be able to do so, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. I have no other questions of my client. The board has any questions of him, they may proceed.
Okay. I'm going to go to our professional first. Tom?
Right. Good evening, Mr. Benetti. Just a few quick questions
are you?
for you. And one of the reasons the board has this policy is just to not check up on properties, but make sure that they're in compliance with all prior approvals and that there are no issues that need to be addressed. And as far as I'm aware, you've taken great care of the property and have been very receptive to the borough's requirements. So thank you for your cooperation. So just a few quick questions for you. The first one has to do with, can you just give a brief overview of all the uses that are going on site? I know there are two separate buildings. There's obviously the Club Feathers building, but there's also the separate sort of standalone two-story, I don't know if it's an office building.
It is.
I know at one point in time it was occupied at least partially by the Excel Pest Control. So again, if you could just give an overview of what's going on.
Sure.
On the site.
Feathers is in the main part of the building, which is 77 Kinderkamak. And the second building is 84 Grand, which used to be XL Pest Control. It's now about a year and a half that they're out of here. This is now Feathers offices strictly. Nothing's ever hosted here, but it's just, we use it as our office space. And in between is the gravel area, which we are using for outdoor dining, and the parking lot in front.
Okay, thank you. So to be clear, there are no more commercial vehicles, Excel vehicles that are parked there on a regular basis?
No, thank God.
Not at all. Okay. All right. Great, thank you. So, I mean, the site's been developed for, I don't know how many decades. I don't think there's been much change in, that period of time. With respect to the parking, I did try to drive by, but I failed to register whether or not the spaces were striped. Do you know if
they are not striped?
Okay.
When I bought it, we had intentions of redoing the parking lot entirely.
Okay.
And then COVID hit a couple of months after and sent us into a tailspin.
I understand you are working toward that, and the world turned upside down. So, I mean, it's up to the board whether or not, as a condition of approval, they'd give some amount of time for, given the circumstances, letting Mr. Benetti address that one particular item. The only other comments I have pertain to the garbage and recycling area. This might be something you're planning on getting around to too. I think right now they exist as sort of just dumpsters that are out in the open on the pavement. Typically, we require some level of containment, visual screening, whether it's typically a 6-foot solid fence or wall. So that's something I would recommend. That's, you know, in a convenient part of the site that doesn't impact parking.
I don't have a problem with that. Once we redo the parking lot, we were going to put a paver pad down anyway so we could hide them. I think they're unsightly to begin with. We just didn't have a spot right now.
Okay. And again, I know you're working to improve things. So I don't have any other comments. I'll leave it to the board if they have any items they'd like to discuss.
Okay, I'm going to go down the line here. I'll go to Mr. Esposito,
Nothing.
Mr. Gibbons,
I think he's muted, but he doesn't look like he has a comment.
Mr. Caslin.
Just one question, Mr. Benetti, just to confirm that the former Excel space, that's just strictly office. There's no food handling or
No, this is literally strictly office. This is now Feather's offices strictly.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Craig,
No question.
Mr. Grasso,
No question.
Mr. Merman.
Yes, comment rather than questions. It's my understanding that this application is solely for a food handler's license, and that any site improvements, which might include discussions or approvals of parking, patio, landscaping, signage, and so forth, will be handled at a further application. That this consideration today is strictly for a food handler's license. Is that correct?
That's
That is
correct.
correct.
Okay. That's all I
And he
have
would
to
come,
say.
and he would come, the client would come back before the board if board approval was needed for something. I don't know if paving or striping the parking lot would require municipal board approval.
Well, I'll let you discuss that with the borough planner.
Okay.
That's it, Mr. Chairman. I have no further
Thank
comments.
Ms. Boland,
No comment.
Councilman Canigo.
Good evening, Mr. Benetti.
Good evening.
With respect to the taxes, you're saying at the end of September, that's 14 days from now. Is that going to be enough time, or do you need a little more? Because I think the board might entertain a little more, but if you don't meet that deadline, then it might be a problem.
I will make the deadline.
Okay.
We'll be okay. We're working around the clock, getting the money we need to keep paying the bills. You know, keep
Okay.
our doors open until we get fully operational.
I just want to make sure that you don't jam yourself up, so
I appreciate it, Councilman.
Appreciate it.
that's fine. Thank you.
Vallejo. Thanks, Councilman Canigo.
No comment.
Okay, I have a few. I am in total agreement with Councilman Canigo that I don't want to see a business owner under the circumstances. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 days. I'd like to give them until October 31st, which is the end of the quarter. This way he has ample time, and if something comes up, he's not finding himself in any kind of trouble and at risk of losing the approval. So I would like to, I'm going to have that, ask somebody put that as part of the motion. As far as the striping goes, I think 1 year would be sufficient for him to go back and restripe that parking lot to make it look like a parking lot. I did have a question for our planner. Is his streetscape in compliance, Tom?
Yes, it's new.
As far as I'm aware, in terms of the paving, the trees, the lighting fixtures, I believe it is. It's sort of complicated in that NJ Transit has a bus stop physically on the property, which I don't know the history behind that, but it is what it is. But to answer your question, yes, as far as I'm
Would the applicant be okay with me with the motion, including review by our planner to make sure that the streetscape is still in compliance as it was? Mr.
Excuse me? If that's what you want to condition, yes.
Okay, yeah, I just, because the streetscape is important to the borough, and that's a very important area down there, as you know, it's our downtown. We've held other business owners' feet to the fire on that, so I just want to make sure that, it looked fine when I drove by.
Okay.
So if it needs any weeding or any attention, I'm sure your client will take care of it.
May
I'm
I
sure it will.
interject something simply is, I'm here every day, sometimes 15 hours a day. The front landscape is perfectly fine. The pavers are fine. The only thing we're having a problem with is getting the lighting fixed down here. We've called PSE&G so many times on every corner of Grand Kinderkamak in front of our building with no resolve.
All right, so what I suggest you do is get hold of our borough manager and try to work through him to get PSE&G over there to fix that.
Okay,
Okay? I'm sure he'd be more than happy to assist you in that.
I appreciate it.
So,
I think what he's saying, Paul, is that the borough may have a little bit more clout than you do when it comes to dealing with PSE&G.
Yeah, we've been calling for over a year because everybody kept hitting the poles as they were driving and it would cause accidents. They kept knocking down the poles, they replaced them, but the electric was never fixed on them. So we kind of get dark here at the end of a night.
Yeah.
So I definitely will reach out.
fixed. So I believe the borough manager is 201-599-6301. And you can get him through that number. And I'm sure he would be more amenable to assist you in getting.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Those are my comments. I'd like to entertain a motion to open to the public. Do I have a second?
Second, Gibbons.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? I don't see anybody from the public. Ms. Finley, do you see anybody?
No, it does not look like there are any attendees.
Then I'll take a motion to close to the public.
So moved, Gibbons.
Second,
Second, Grasso.
Grasso.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, any abstain? All right, so let's go back to the taxes real quick. Is the board in approval, in agreement with the chairman and the councilman that he needed a little more time? Maybe what would be fair is the end of the quarter?
Absolutely.
Dick Merman here, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement with that, and I would suggest that the board hold the signatures on the resolution, the final resolution approval, based on proof that the taxes were submitted, which would still give them, was assumed to the October 31st date.
So the only thing with that, Mr. Merman, is I think if he doesn't have his memorialization, he's operating under what could be a violation. Why don't we say this? If the taxes aren't paid by October 31st, 2020, then the memorialization will become void. I don't want to hold them up from doing any business.
So I didn't quite catch what you were saying. You were saying if we approve the resolution, not the motion, but the resolution, and the taxes still aren't paid, what happens then?
By October 31st, if they're not paid, the memorialization becomes, the approval becomes void.
Okay, so we can condition the resolution, the motion on the resolution on them being paid by the 31st?
I believe we can, Ms. Stanley?
Yes, we've done that in the past. We have.
Okay, fine. So if you want, I'll take a whack at making a motion.
Yep,
And
just 1 second. Mr. Benetti and Mr. Manisi, are you okay with those circumstances?
That's fine.
Yes.
And again, Mr. Benetti, we want you to succeed.
I appreciate it.
As a prior nightclub manager for a while, I was always jealous of the lines you had outside.
Well, I can't tell you what, I can't wait to have that again. Hopefully one day.
Well, and I hope that for you too. We here in River Edge want all our businesses to be successful. We have a very proactive mayor and council who obviously you saw what they did with the COVID outdoor dining. They've moved on that probably quicker than any other town in Bergen County. And I commend them for that, and as does the board. And we want you to be successful. So
I
on that,
appreciate it.
Mr. Merman is aching at the seams here to put in his motion.
All right, we'll give it a shot. We can always amend it. I make a motion that the board, the land use board, for the block 1410, lot 4.03, which is 77 Kinderkamak Road and 84 grand, that the food handlers license for PBJ Restaurant LLC, also, I guess it was also known as Club Feathers, well, prior known as, be approved solely for a food handler's license, that any site improvements or including parking, fences, setbacks, landscape, outdoor patios and so forth, be the subject of a future submission, and that the board extend till October 31st for the any outstanding taxes to be paid, and that the resolution, the approved resolution for this application will cease after October 31st if that's not met, if the October 31st date is not met. And apparently also, it looks like the applicant will consider striping that lot within a year, and any other improvements would be under the any other submission for what we said other than the food handler's license. I know it was a lot of words, but I got something in there.
Except that the striping would, in 1 year, would be mandatory.
Okay. Amendment accepted.
And also, please include the streetscape review by our planner.
Well, the streetscape is the original streetscape that we installed down there. That was the borough project.
As long as it's maintained, that's all. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. Any comment? So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Gibbons.
Any further comments from the board? Ms. Finley, I'll take a roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mr. Benet, congratulations. Mr. Menician, good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Have a great.
All the best.
Thank you
Good luck.
guys also. Be safe.
Yes,
luck,
Mr.
sir.
Paul.
Be safe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right, just a quick housekeeping note. I received a letter a few days ago from Mr. Barrett regarding the museum down by on Hackensack Avenue there. So if you, I had board secretary or clerk send out to the members that letter for your review. And you can see that it appears that they're making some progress, but it looks like they have a lot of progress to go. Again, I think the board is would be excited to get this thing off the ground, but until they receive their DEP approvals that they're having trouble with, and I think we're still waiting on the sewer connection agreement. It's right now it's in a holding pattern. So I know that Mr. Barrett is working with the society, the Historic Society, to try to get this to fruition. So we're just in a holding pattern. The questions come up about it, so I just wanted to fill the board in. Ms. Bowen, do you have anything to say?
No, I
You
don't.
just have it up on my screen here. And we have a few other applications coming up. Nothing of any serious magnitude, but we do have a couple more homeowners. I think we have another food license next month. There's also an establishment that's not in compliance that Tom is working with to get them before the board for a food license as well. And that's all I got. Any questions, any comments from anybody? Okay. And I apologize for this is my first time having to host Zoom because Ms. Kaufman was busy this evening. So we, of course, ran into a few little snafus, but it seemed to work out in the end. So I thank everybody for their patience, and I thank everybody for being here tonight. And I'd like to ask somebody to offer up a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great
Take care.
Thank you all.
Take
Take
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think doing that.